Hi, Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and here's another interview in my series of interviews with subscribers. Enjoy. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here with another Idiot Quilter Presents, and I have a very delightful and entertaining lady with me today, and this is Amy Dement. Did I say your last name correctly, Amy?
You did. You did.
Good, because I have a tendency to botch names. So I'm happy about that. We're off to a great start. So, where are you from? Where are you located in general?
Well, I'm located in Austin, Texas, but I'm from Marietta, Georgia.
Oh,
Born and raised in Marietta, Georgia. Moved to Texas about 2.5 years ago. So far, I love it here. It's really hot, but other than
heard.
that, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I've heard that it's been really a hot summer, especially
It
in Texas, but other parts of the
is
world too, we've been getting it as well. It's like beautiful here today. It's October the 2nd, and it's 20 degrees C, which is approximately 68 Fahrenheit. For you, we don't usually have it quite here in Canada that warm at this point of the year, but I'm not going to complain. Cold will come soon enough. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 96 here today,
Oh, good God.
Fahrenheit. So about 40. Is that about
Yeah,
38?
yes,
Yeah.
yep. That's hot. That's hot. So, how long have you been quilting?
I have been quilting for about 35 years. So since I was a wee type, no, since I was about 15. Uh,
Wow.
and I learned on PBS.
Hmm.
My mom loved quilts. She didn't sew by machine. She was a beautiful hand stitcher. She was 5'1", so everything had to be hemmed. So she was a beautiful hand stitcher, but she was, not keen with the machine. She was afraid of it. And so I got a sewing machine for my birthday one year and watched everything that I could on PBS and learned to quilt and loved it. So,
So your mother
you know,
wasn't really an influencer, but was there anybody in your family who was?
no. I mean, my mother loved quilts
Right.
and quilting, but she never did it.
I see.
She was a facilitator.
Okay.
But I didn't have anyone in my life. My grandparents were all gone before I was born. So I didn't have anyone in my life that sewed or stitched or anything like that. It's just me and the TV
So,
and a lot of support.
so besides seeing quilts, like your mother always directing you towards them and things like that, was there anything else that made you want to become a quilter?
I love color
Mm.
and seeing all of these tiny little pieces and the history of it. Being Southern, quilts are part of life. They're part of our everyday life. They're everywhere. And so seeing all of these tiny little pieces and knowing that they were from leftovers or the reuse aspect of it, the waste not aspect of it was fascinating to me. And seeing how people put tiny little patches together and created these sparkling, beautiful pieces of art was really inspiring. And I wanted to learn to do that.
Yeah. Well, I can see that. I'm looking, I'm absolutely, I was going to bring this up a little later, but I got to talk about it now. I
Okay.
am loving how you are framed in this shot. That beautiful quilt to the one side, the smaller pieces to the other. And I love the little sign just by the side of your head. Hello, beautiful. Now tell me, this is not by accident, is it?
No, no, it's not. It's not. I when I moved into this room as a studio, I knew I wanted to do quilting in here, but I also, had the YouTube idea banging around in my head.
Right.
And I have a good friend who she's a beauty and lifestyle
Hmm.
YouTuber. And I, was looking at her background and her behind the scenes and talking to her. I was like, okay, thinking about how can I make, and also I'm in some Zoom guilds. And so I was like, I want it to not be boring. And I was like, okay, how can I frame it? How can I make it both practical and visually pleasing on a camera? And I wanted to be surrounded by all of the pieces. And I've got all my little toys up here. And so that's for me, but the framing of it is for camera. It's not an accident,
No, and it
but every piece of it is intentional, but also part of me. It speaks to who I am and how I work.
well, I'm going to say that the coordination here, the purples in the quilt with your hair, the red in your outfit in your top with the quilt, and over on the other side, the glasses with the outfit. Do you like polka dots?
I love polka dots. I was a kid in the 70s, and there was a lot of dotted Swiss in my life with the little bumpy fabric, and I love it. I still love to run my hands across it and corduroy and things like that. But yeah, polka dots they just stick. They have been in my life from the time I was a wee child, and they just stick. They're just so happy.
Yeah, yeah, true. And the whole set, the whole background that you've got, I am absolutely, this has got to be out of all the interviews I've done, this is the most attractive background that I have ever seen. I can't keep my eyes off it.
Oh, thank you.
My eyes are going straight over but that connects to that over there. That connects over there. So I have a feeling that in your quilt creations, those connections exist as well. So do you have a favorite creation? And if so, why? And that is a really hard question, and I know it is.
It is a hard question, but I had the cheat sheet and I had the questions beforehand. So I have had some time to think about it. I do. I have two actually. This quilt behind me is very special, but there's one, and I don't have it here to show. It's packed away safely somewhere, that I made for my mom, and I'm gonna try to get through it.
Okay.
My mom's been gone since 2006, and it's rotten every day. Um, but I made a quilt, just a rag quilt out of flannel, nice quilt shop flannel. 20, let's see, how old is my kid? Oh, so I made it about 22 years ago, and she loved it. And she would keep it, her feet would get cold. She had some health problems,
Right.
and she loved it. And it was bright colors. And my husband always teased with her and said, "Oh, she made you a quilt, but she lives with me and she hasn't made me one." And she was like, "Well, one day you'll get this one." And I was like, I never want Casey to have that quilt.
Mm.
But one day he did get that one. And we have used it and loved it literally to death. It's religious, it's so holy. And it's faded, but it's special.
Yep. And
And
I think that's why we make quilts. Yes, we like color, we like pattern the whole bit, but I think the ones that are most special to us are the ones that have the human connection to them as well, like we're
yes,
saying. So
yes.
that quilt that's behind you that you say is
Hmm.
also one of your favorites, is that just a scrappy quilt, the one like a string quilt, I think they call it, or whatever, where you do the rows and put it together?
It is a string quilt. It's a quilt I made in a class that I took from a lady named Marquetta Johnson. And Marquetta she is a creative force. She's been on a lot of the modern quilt guilds. She's been done a couple of the textile talks with them and things like that. And I took a class with her at the High Museum of Art in Atlanta. After I heard her speak, I heard she and some of the G-Spin quilters speak about their art and what it meant to them. And I was just gobsmacked, And then when I saw it pop up that she was teaching a class, I didn't even read the description of what it was. I was like, sign up, take my money. And then I went back and read, okay, what are we doing? And learned it was like a beginning or a basic quilting class. I was like, I don't care. I know how to quilt, but I
Yeah.
don't care. I'm going to go and learn from her. And I did a video on about it. It's the video, but is it art?
Mm,
And it's how I learned to be an artist, how I learned to call myself an artist, and other quilters, because we are.
yes.
That's what we do. And I just I love it. I it's hand quilted. It's all string pieced on muslin,
Right.
and it's hand quilted with just embroidery thread that I had. And I did it on a deadline, and I finished it in about 6 weeks.
Mm.
So much that my shoulders and my hands hurt. But
Yeah.
I put on trashy TV and watched a lot of hours of trashy TV while, while I stitched up that quilt. And so and that's what, when I hung it in the show, and it hung. Marquetta got us a show, a student show at the High Museum of Art in Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm like, how do you do that? And she's like, oh, I can do it. I was like, I believe you. And she did. And so it hung in the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, which just still, it thrills me to say that.
Yeah.
And when I put the label on the back of it, I called it Art and Trash TV, because there's a lot of trash TV bound up in that quilt.
Well, it's a beautiful quilt. I've done string quilts before too, and it always amazes me with string quilts that you don't really have a plan beyond the thing that you're going to make the blocks on the muslin or whatever
Mhm.
is your foundation. But when you put it together, something magical happens. It just
It really
works.
does. It
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah. And that is a beautiful, beautiful quilt. I love the color
Thank
scheme
you.
that you've used with it. So let's talk then a little bit about, and again, an unfair question, but you had them in advance. So
I did.
type of quilter are you? What's your label? Are you traditional, modern, freeform, experimental? How would you characterize yourself?
Okay. I'm going to refer to your background on this. When you're teaching English, everything's literature,
Right.
but then there's like capital L literature, capital L literature, everything's literature, but then there's capital L literature. And it
Right.
doesn't have to be just the classics. There's modern literature that will be around forever. And that's what I like to do. I want to be a capital Q quilter.
Mhm.
You know, I like all of it. I like traditional. I like um some of the modern stuff,
Yeah.
or contemporary stuff. And I think it's all good, and it all serves a purpose. And the more tools we have in our toolbox, the better we are at everything.
Very true.
So I always refer to myself. People say, well, what kind of quilter are you? I'm like, capital Q quilter, all of it. I like all of it, and I want it to all be around forever. So
And that's a good way to describe a capital Q quilter, like do it all. Because I
yeah,
think when we pigeonhole ourselves or when we label ourselves, like you said, some people come up, oh, I only do traditional. Well, you're limiting a whole spectrum out there that you could be exploring. And, that creative element there is fun. You're
yeah,
knocking out some of the fun in your life by not, leaving yourself open. Yeah, sure. Maybe you don't want to do something that's really, really modern. Maybe that's not your cup of tea, but you never say never. You don't know what
right.
will come up from that.
And some of the new techniques or new ideas that, now, I mean, nothing's really new,
No,
but some of the ideas from both camps can work in your traditional quilting, or traditional methods and ideas can work in modern quilt. I hate that term.
yes, I know.
I hate I hate
Say,
I hate that term, and I'm a member of both the national and my local chapter of the Modern Quilt Guild, and they're changing their definitions as they go. But I hate I yeah, I don't like boxes.
yeah.
I love squares, but I don't like boxes.
And to bring it back, because you started sort of doing the analogy with literature and that kind of thing,
Mhm.
and you hate the term modern, it's how I hate the term postmodern in literature, because are we not living in the modern age? What's postmodern? I don't get it, that kind of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure the
Well,
academics out
and
there have a
isn't
definition.
that always changing every day?
Exactly. Yep.
because time marches on.
Yeah, it does, you know. So yeah, but that's why I consider this an unfair question because I don't think most quilters, I don't think like to be labeled. We do what grabs us at the moment, you know.
Yeah.
It might be modern this week, but next week we'll see a traditional one we must do out of it all. And that's the free flowingness, the flow of being a quilter with a capital Q, I think. So you're in your work area. We've already
Mhm.
talked a little bit about it. Can you describe it a little bit more? Like, is it a big area, a small area? What have you got?
It's a rather big room. I'm looking at it now. That board is 8 feet, so it's about 12 by 14 just in this room. And it's a um I guess it's a spare bedroom. It's downstairs. The house is odd. And I've just got all my sewing and fabric and whatnot in here. And I've got my long arm in a front room in the house because it wasn't here and I couldn't breathe.
Right.
I couldn't breathe to the point I was like, no, we have to get it out. Maybe I'll just sell it. And and so we shortened the table. We took it down to 8 feet. I'm like, that may be manageable, and moved it out of here. And that really works.
Yeah, they take up
So
a lot of real estate, that's for sure.
they do.
Yeah,
They do.
I have one too, and it's in another room as well. So,
Mhm.
but I can't live without it. I love my lawn.
Mm. It's
Um,
great, right?
Yeah, they are. Once, you know, I know it's a big expense. I know people listening to this are going, oh, yeah, sure, you got to be rich to have a long arm. Well, no, you don't have to be rich, but you have to have, you know,
You have
save
to
your
plan.
pennies because you have to plan. Yeah, space wise, financially, and the whole bit. But once you have your own long arm, you'll never go back to, yeah, trying to shove it underneath that sewing machine. So, speaking of sewing machines, and I know every quilter has more than one, how many sewing machines you got?
How many sewing machines do I have? One, two, three, four, four, and a serger. It used to be a lot more, but when we moved, I offloaded a bunch of my vintage machines to my friends who are really hungry for them, and I was like, they're just heavy. I love them, but they're too heavy to move.
So you mentioned vintage machines. Do you have
Mhm.
a featherweight?
I do have a featherweight. It needs some TLC right now. At some point it got oil in the motor instead of grease, and so now you turn it on and it smokes, and I'm like, I gotta take it. I gotta take it to somebody who will love on it and clean all that out.
Well, you just
So
people if they see you sewing on it, smoking, you're going, I'm just
that's just how fast I am.
yeah, that's just how fast you are. Exactly. But I mentioned the featherweights because I just recently acquired one. It was gifted to me. And it seems like in the quilting world, the featherweight is the what do you call it? The holy grail.
Yeah.
Everything. Everybody wants a featherweight. And I really appreciate that the person who gave it to me, it was a personal gift and that kind of thing. And I have it in a place of honor. But to be honest, I don't use it. I like my modern machine with the buzzers and the bells and everything else on it. And I know for the purists out there with featherweights, you know, that's sacrilege, you know, because
Oh,
they're
well, the thing about the vintage machines that I love, and honestly, I had a Singer 1599, which you can pick up anywhere because they were very common. They weigh about 43 pounds. They're cast iron, but it is the most perfect straight stitch I have ever sewn in my life. And it's beautiful, but it's absolutely not necessary.
yeah,
And I love my featherweight. It's cute. I mean, it's beautiful, and it's got the mine's got the filigree on the faceplate. So I mean, it is exquisite, but it's slow.
yep,
And um, you know, it's nostalgia. That's
yeah,
really what it is.
yeah,
And it does so a beautiful straight stitch. And it would be great for, carrying to a retreat or to
class or something.
a class or an
Yeah.
event if it didn't smoke and smell kind of funny. But well, I'll get that fixed. I'll get
Yeah.
that fixed.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite tool that you can't live without, you reach for every day?
Hmm. I'll use pretty much anything, even if it's just scissors to cut strips and fabric. But if I had to pick a favorite, I'm gonna say it's probably my Martelli rotary cutter. and it's for a really tacky reason.
And
I'm I'm left-handed, and so I have a left-handed Martelli cutter, and nobody else can use it.
ah,
I mean, like I said, it's really you're gonna learn more about me than I wish to really tell, but that's the truth. Is like I take it to a class or a retreat, and nobody can use my stuff, my cutter, because it's in the wrong hand, and so it doesn't walk away. It
so,
doesn't
yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
get
I know
confused with
exactly.
anyone else's.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and my best friend pointed out, she's like, except your kids. And I was like, oh man, you're right.
Oh, are your kids left-handed?
They are. They are. And I was like, oh, I'll have to keep them out of here.
Yep. Can't have them running off with your tools. No,
Oh,
I know what that's like though. You go to a retreat or something, somebody's, oh, can I just borrow that for a second? You never see it again.
and then it's lost in the fray. And
Yep.
people aren't trying to do anything,
No, it
but it
just
gets lost in the fray.
exactly. I mean, I have a label maker, everything has my name on it.
Yeah.
But even still, they can go walking, and it's just
Mhm.
not intentional. It's just what happens in it all. That's
Yeah, people pick up my they're like, how do you, I'm like, it's left-handed. They're like, oh.
no. Yep. Next person. So, do you have a favorite technique?
I have some techniques I don't like.
Oh, well, tell us about those.
Um, I I am not a foundation paper piecing girl.
Ah,
I've tried it. I've tried it, and I watch the stuff that, the legit kits and the that Donna's doing, and Becca, and it is absolutely exquisite, and I just hate doing it. I don't turn shapes over well in my mind. I have a
mhm.
block with that. And so it's always backwards, and they're like, oh, you just need to do more. I'm like, it's not worth it.
Exactly. I know
It,
exactly what you feel because I feel the same way. And right now, it almost seemed like it's sacrilege to say that because it
I
is the
know.
flavor of the month or the year.
It
Everybody,
really is.
and those legit kits are really getting everybody going. And
And
you're
they're
right, they're
amazing.
gorgeous. They're gorgeous. But like you, I call myself geometrically challenged. I don't see shapes that way. I get all
No.
screwed up the same thing. And yes, maybe with practice it'll be better, but it's like free motion quilting on a domestic machine. I would love to be able to do it, but I don't want to spend the time to do the practice. That's why I have a
Yeah.
computer on my long arm. I love watching the technology. I mean, it's the 21st century.
Yeah.
If
Well, and my husband is a computer architect, and he's like really, really good at what he does. And he's in a managerial position. He has, two teams under him. And he's not good at like scheduling and like the all the details of like reviews and the paperwork side of it. And I'm like, Casey, hire somebody to do that. Hire somebody that's really good at that, and do the one thing that only you can do.
yeah,
Focus on the thing that you are the best at, and let technology or hire pay it, buy your time back.
yeah,
you know
very true.
so
It's kind of goes with that old adage, you know, uh, jack of all trades, master of none.
Mhm.
We can't all be good at everything. We can't all enjoy everything that's involved in this craft, right?
And you don't have
You
to.
don't have to. You do that which brings you joy, and the rest
Yeah.
of the stuff you either ship out or let technology take over. That's how I
Mhm.
feel about quilting. Machines
Mhm.
there, the quilt, the technology is there. Let it do its thing,
Yeah.
with it. And besides, I spent a lot of money on it, and so I'm gonna get
That's
my money back. Speaking of money, if you had all the money in the world, is there a piece of equipment you'd buy?
I used to think it was the Pro Stitcher, the computerized add-on for my long arm. But I don't know. That's the learning curve on that to me seems because it's a very different skill set and design mind to use the computerized. People think you click the button, no, and it just does it itself.
No,
That is not how it works, guys.
that's for sure.
That
It is
is
not
not how it
plug and
works.
play.
There's so much involved. And so I used to think it was that. But now I think, no, I'll just do my free motion. I do it, freehand, but not custom, not like those people that I'm not Angela Walters over
Feathers
here or
and the
anything. Oh
pebbles
no,
and all that kind of
no,
stuff. Yeah.
no. Um, I can do some stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm just quilting it. Um, but now I think, I don't know, maybe it's a trip to London and go lose my mind at Liberty or something.
Yeah, true. But yeah, that I would love to go to Liberty. Uh,
Right,
mm,
right. I could just lose my mind in there and buy everything. I might have to
oh
build
yeah.
an addition onto the house
Yeah,
for
yeah,
all the.
true. That's the other thing, if I had all the money in the world, I would build an addition to the house. I would have the world's largest quilt studio. I could tell you that, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I'm lucky. Actually, my studio is a fairly good size, but still, you never have enough space, right? You never have enough
Right.
storage space. You never have, and you fill it.
And
Constantly.
people, yeah, people would say, perhaps it's not space that's an issue. Perhaps you have too much stuff. And you know what I say to those people? You
Yeah,
can go now.
yeah,
You can
that's
go
what I
now.
say.
We don't need to listen. We don't need that negativity in our life.
I don't believe you can have too much fabric. And I love it when they say to you, and you go into a quilt store and there's other customers and I'm getting my fabric cut and they go, "Oh, that's really pretty. What are you going to do with that?" And I'll go, "Anything that I want to." "Well, why are you buying it?" I said, "Because it's pretty." And
It
I
made
like,
me happy in my heart.
yeah. "Well, don't you have enough fabric?" "Oh, no, no, I do not. I do not." And really, I have a lot of fabric, but it seems every time you go for a project, right? And you're looking for this fabric and you go through your shelves and you look at everything and you go, "I don't have what I need." And so gotta shop, gotta shop. Yep. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Yeah.
There you go. It's a good story. It's a
Yeah.
good
So
story.
if we change a little bit around here, so have you ever belonged to an in-person group or a guild or the design team or online? And how
I
did those
have.
work out for you?
Oh. Oh, okay. Um, hmm. No, I'll save that story for
Okay.
for not on camera. Um,
I've
but
got
no,
one of
I
those too.
I am currently a member of the Austin Area Guild and the Austin Modern Quilt Guild. And that's about community and um um just interaction and
Right.
access to the national teachers and things like that. I'm also a member of Sean's online guild.
Yes.
Sean, the guy who sews, his
Guy who
online
sews.
guild, and I just joined that, and oh, that was so much fun. Over Zoom. I've been members of guild. I was the vice president of my tiny little guild back in Georgia, and was in charge of programs and things like that, and that was a lot of fun. But I don't know. My daughter would say, "Mom, you hate people," and it's not that. It's just that they wear me out.
Uh-huh. I know
They
what you're
wear me
saying.
out,
Yes.
and I'm very extroverted. I like to be the center of attention, but at my core, I need the downtime. I need things to be quiet to recharge.
Yep. I know
So,
exactly
it's
what you
it's a
mean.
mixed bag. I love seeing everybody and I love seeing all their work. And then I'm like, I've had all the togetherness I can stand. I need to go.
Yeah. Yep. I know exactly the feeling. That's why I
Mhm.
like Zoom now for things because one, I don't have to tote my stuff to classes or retreats,
That's
and
true.
I can pick if I want to be there or not. And, I
Mhm.
hate to say it, but if someone's sort of monopolizing the Zoom, I always have the ability to be able to turn off or turn down my volume, you know, kind of a deal. Whereas when you're with them personally, you've got to like make it look like you're really interested in what they have to
Yeah,
say.
and so sometimes that's quite the challenge. But you know, in general, people really, you know, the people who are at the guild meetings, they're excited to be there and they just want to be friendly. And my issues of I've had enough people time, those are about me. You know.
And
So
every guild is a little different in its characteristics. Like the one that I was a member of for a while, and that's a story for another day, to kind of like
mm,
what you're saying. Um, let's just say extremely competitive and not very gracious about things,
mm,
you know. Whereas I know there are many other guilds out there where the people are absolutely lovely and supportive, and you know, they, you know, so I guess you have to pick a guild. If you're going to get into a guild or some other kind of group, you got to pick one that kind of suits your personality, suits your characteristics and things like that, if you're going to be happy in it, because I mean they should be a happy place. And
mm,
I know about Sean's as well, because Sean and I
yeah.
are friends as well, but I'm not a member of it, and there's only one reason why. He does them on a Sunday night, and that's not a good time for me.
Yeah.
Also, I'm afraid I get so involved, and you know this too, as a YouTube creator, you know, your time is limited, really.
Mhm.
And you just add another one to the pile. I mean, I don't know how some of these YouTube creators like Sean and Stephanie Stitches and Dawn and all the rest, they've got 1,000 projects going on all at once, and I don't know how they manage it. I really don't. They should be giving
Yeah,
something.
Donna is live like 19 times a week. I'm like, girl, how are you doing it?
Yeah.
But yeah, oh man.
Well, I guess he
It's,
doesn't
you
have a
know,
life.
I like that there's room for everyone and every style. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, it is. And the quilting community online in itself, for the most part, is very vibrant, very energetic, and very inspiring, I always find. So there's always something on YouTube that will help you in your educational venture or just in pure inspiration. I just like to watch some and go, oh, yeah, I know how to do that, but I like your twist on it. Or
Mhm.
there's something comes out that goes, what if I?
Or I'm never gonna do that, but man, I'm enjoying watching you do it.
Yeah, I know. I watched a technique the other day I'd never seen before, that this one lady, I can't remember her name now. It's Ole or something. It was somebody, I have to explore her channel a little further. But she was putting curved pieces together, but not sewing them as curves. She was sewing them just together, like not doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance really, but on top of it, she was putting a piece of binding, like bias, that she used to go around it, and the effect was phenomenal. And I thought,
Oh wow.
I'd like to try that at some point in time, but we'll see. There's lots of things I'd like to try. Whether I'll get to them,
I
I
keep a
don't know.
running list. It's a long list.
I gave that up. I did the same thing, and when I got to like about 100 to 150 things on the list, I went, "This is not manageable." And I just say, "No, I'll wait."
Sometimes at some point it's like the pressure's too great. I have to
Yeah,
stop.
yeah, and again, it's we do that to ourselves as quilters, you know.
Oh yeah.
We put pressure on, we put deadlines on ourselves, we get overwhelmed, we see patterns that we want to do, so we keep binders or drawers, and these things are all sort of semi-organized, and they sit there for years
Hmm.
because we've gone on to, you know, squirrel, another thing, later with that. So speaking of supplies, then, and stuff like
Hmm.
patterns and whatnot, do you have any favorite spots you'd like to shop for your supplies and materials, online, offline?
The free table at my guild meeting.
Oh, yes.
I
Tell us a little
I
more
li-
about that.
I like the weird stuff. I like the half finished project and the the people are like, I can't look at this anymore. Here, I'm putting it on the free table. And I volunteered actually to man the free table at the guild meetings, and that way, you know, you get
Yep.
first dibs on all the good stuff. Now, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, so I'm not like over there hoarding it like a little squirrel. But you know, and like I say, I like the I cut out these 322-inch squares and I'm never going to use them. I'm going, there's fabric in there from 1993 and I'm going to take it and I'm going to sew it.
Yep. Yeah, true. There's lots of resources. So do you like then to do what a lot of people are into these days, going to the charity shops, vintage stores, and looking for things that like old clothing to cut up or even unfinished quilt tops or things like that?
I do. I've been doing that for years. And, I've got the quilt behind me has, it's got um, linen shorts and men's shirts. And I think there's some cotton sheeting in there. Fabric is fabric.
Yep, true.
People are like, it's not quilt shop quality. I'm like, no, it's Ralph Lauren and it's okay. you know?
Yeah.
It'll be okay. But the bottom line is it'll be okay. I'll sew with anything, even if it's like not quilt shop quality. It's a quilt. Love it to death. I'll make you a new one.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
true.
know,
And
I mean, if something's like, if something's gross, if it's
well,
crispy and hard to use, that's
yeah.
another thing. But in general, fabric is fabric. I'm not super picky.
And right now, one of the big flavors this year too is sustainable quilting. Have you heard of the term?
Yeah,
Basically, it's
it's
what you're
gone
doing.
around the block a few times.
Yeah, yeah. It's just basically finding old stuff and making it into a quilt, kind of a deal. You know,
Like, oh, that's sort of how quilts have been for hundreds of
well, that's
years.
true.
But
Um,
okay, if you want to say it's new and put a label on it, go
yeah,
ahead, marketing. Go ahead, marketing. Go for it.
yeah. Actually, it breaks me up when I hear this sustainable quilting thing. And just like you said, that's when quilts were back in the day. People were making them from old clothing and recycling, reusing already before that became a thing. Now, so yeah,
And
sustainable quilting.
stuffing them with newspaper to keep the wind out of the walls, hanging them on walls to
Yeah,
keep as insulation
yeah,
because they're,
they're heavy.
especially post-war. Um,
Yep.
a Southern girl in the Civil War was um, pretty brutal on the Southern economy. So there's a lot of quilt history there that talks about quilts in people's lives,
Yep.
and it's fascinating. So
So, any experts? Now, you've been doing this for 35 years, so I
I
would
have.
consider you an expert I would turn to for ideas. But do you have any sources of information or inspiration you go to on a regular basis, or when you feel you need to know something or be inspired?
I do, I find that there are a lot of there are a lot of great YouTube resources now. And if I need to know how to do something, I'll just search it and, watch 3 or 4 or 5 videos and find the one that makes sense in my brain,
Right.
because everybody teaches differently, everybody learns differently. And so I'll find, the one or the bits and pieces. That's something that I do is like I will take bits and I collect information and then combine it and go, oh, okay, now it makes sense because I've combined all the ingredients together.
Yeah.
So there's no like one source. There are so many great YouTubers out there sharing information. Small channels, large channels. I mean, Missouri Star is a great place to start. Fat Quarter Shop is a great place to start. Pat Sloan, Bonnie Hunter is amazing. She doesn't do as much on YouTube now, but her blog is a really excellent resource, and a million free patterns and ways to use, tiny pieces and scraps. And I've watched these people, especially those four, build like empires, you
Yes.
know,
Mhm.
by sharing information freely,
Yeah.
by saying, here, let me bring you along. Sure, you want to sell a product, you've got a business, but that's not what it's about. It's about, let me teach you to quilt. Let me make this easy for you. Let me give you the skills and the tools and the information that you need so that you can be part of this as well. And to me, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's the best thing. You know, we've all been to a class or a demonstration where you feel like it's a timeshare sales presentation and you're like, I can't get out of here fast enough. I'm not going to give you I'm going to gatekeep the information until you buy my product. And to me, that's just, well, we have a word in the South that is like the worst thing. It's like, that's just tacky. That's just tacky. And like in the South, that's like the worst thing you can be. It's like, oh, honey, that's just tacky. Um, I understand it. I understand where it comes from. But I think when you keep your hand open, that things can flow out, but things can also flow in.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm inspired by the people who are like, here, let me share this. And like I said, I grew up watching quilting on PBS, which is our public broadcasting system, which
Yeah.
is free. You know, that's their whole model is let's educate you, let's entertain you for free. So maybe it's just part of my history that I think that the information is shareable. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know if I answered your question
no,
at all. I
you did.
got in the hole there for a minute on a
And
box.
one of the things I want to focus on a little bit from what you've just said is, yeah, we all know about the Jenny Dones out there and the Angela Walters and that. And when you first get into quilting, those are exactly who you gravitate to because they have such a big presence on the internet and in YouTube and everything. But there are so many smaller channels
Oh
that
yeah.
have as much, in some cases, more to offer. And that's actually why I do these interviews. I'm not interested. I've been asked, people have asked me to interview Jenny Doan, and even if she would agree to it, you know, I mean, I think she's wonderful, but you know,
Right.
everybody knows who she is. You know, we know all about her. I want
Mm-hmm.
to do the other people that people don't find as readily. Like the YouTube algorithm doesn't pop you to the top yet because
Yeah,
you don't have 100,000 subscribers and millions of views on one video. And that's my goal for doing these. So people know there's a lot more out there. Just because it's
there
somebody
is.
that you may not have heard of before, don't discount them as being like not worth the effort to take a look at what they have.
I agree. And you know, to that effect, like I said, those are a great place to start if you're looking for um just like an extensive library
Right.
of ideas. But then there are people who, so like I do, that I love. Um, I cannot. I'm not going to remember her name, and it's going to kill me. It may be Beth on her channel is My Sewing Room,
Oh, okay. Yep.
and
What you're talking about.
she's a scrap quilter, and you know works with whatever somebody gave her. And one of the things she said in one of her videos, if someone offers you fabric, you say yes. I was like,
Of
yeah,
course.
you do.
Yeah.
It's like it can all be washed, and if it's no good, it can be composted. You know, if
Exactly.
somebody offers you fabric, you say yes.
Yes.
And so, and she's not super worried about precision and the quarter inch being just so. And half the time she doesn't iron her pieces, and I'm like, that is exactly how I work. She
Mhm.
has this calming presence that I will never have, but that's okay.
Yep.
But it speaks to me. I'm like, yeah, that to me is what quilting is. You
Yep.
take all the pieces, you don't worry so much about the quilt
Rules.
police and who's going to tell you you're wrong, and everything has to be just so. And you make a quilt and it makes somebody happy and it keeps them warm, and that's the whole point.
Or it makes yourself happy too. You've done it.
Yes.
There's flaws in it, but that's okay. I don't think I've made a quilt yet to date that doesn't have some kind of oops in it. Some of them are big oopses, and that's basically why I started my channel, The Idiot Quilter, because I do idiot things, but I want to show people it's not the end of the world. You know, You did something wrong, you can always correct it, or you can do something else with it. It's not going to end the world, you know. There aren't any quilt police. And if you run into anybody that's like a quilt police, run in the opposite direction. You don't need that person in your life with it. So,
Oh,
so
yeah, I had
let's,
somebody tell me
oh yeah, go ahead.
I put red and white polka dots in everything I do. And if it's not in the quilt top, I'll put a piece of it in the binding. And I had somebody tell me once, like, oh, I don't like that. I wouldn't do that. And I had tried to be nice to this person for like an hour straight. You know, and they were just one of those people that everything you said got returned with negativity. And I was like, I'm trying really hard. And then she said that to me, and I just looked at her. I was like, oh, yeah, I don't care.
Yep. Yeah, you must have mistaken me for someone who gives a care.
I was like, I can't. I'm trying so hard. And yeah, if you're going to be ugly to me, please don't, because I don't have time for that.
Well, the line I like to give them is when they're saying, well, I wouldn't have done that. And I go, well, it's not your quilt, is it?
You didn't do that. That good for you. I'm
Yeah.
happy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. So let's talk about your YouTube channel for a moment. How long have
Right.
you had it? First of all, what's the name of your it's just your name, right?
It's just my name.
Yep,
It's just Amy Dement.
yep.
And I did that. Well, I wanted people to be able to find me
Mm,
by me, not to have to remember. Oh, like a minute ago when I couldn't remember
right.
my sewing room, when I think it's Beth, but oh my God, I'm so sorry if that's wrong. I can't remember her name, and I'm usually really good with names. Um, but I wanted, I wanted people to be able to find me, and it's my name. And when I joined YouTube to, I don't know, leave a comment or something, and you have to like, they're like, oh, you have to do this, and I was like, I have to start a channel, and that was years ago, and I was like, I don't want to start a channel. But anyway, it ended up being my name, and I stuck with it. So
So how long have you had the channel then?
about 5 weeks.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Because I looked at how many videos you have so far. I think
Mhm.
I looked again this morning. I think it says you've got 15 videos. And
That sounds about right.
I think you've got slightly over 2,000 viewers, which actually is
Hmm.
pretty good. And for 5 weeks, that's actually very good. Uh,
Yeah, I've had a lot of support.
yeah, and there'll be more people coming now once
Thank
this
you.
interview goes up. So, and I like to support people who are just starting out because people supported me when I first started too. So, and I'm not big either, but I'm bigger than you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I mean,
That
that's what it
sounded
takes. Is
nasty.
it takes everybody, everybody lifting everyone up.
So when they come,
There's
yeah,
plenty in the world that's going to cut you down all on its own. We
yeah,
don't need to do that here.
no,
Yeah.
it's not a competition. So when someone comes to your channel for the first time, what can they expect to find?
Sass.
Good.
Um,
I like
a little
that.
bit of sass,
Yeah.
a different point of view. There are a lot of great tutorial channels, big ones, small ones, and they're fantastic. I didn't want to do that because I don't like to be told what to do.
Mhm.
And I would never presume that my one way is the right way. Not that other people are doing that, but that's how it felt to me. I was like, I don't want to be saying, oh, here's how you do this, because there are 100 ways to do it. And I knew I couldn't get bogged down in, oh, there are 100 ways to do this. Let me show you all of them,
Mm.
because that's not useful.
No, no.
And so, I thought about, okay, what is it about quilting that appeals to me? What is it about quilting that's not out there? What are people not talking about? And for me, I think it's the deeper conversation about what quilting means to people, and how you can go about it in different ways, and that there's room for everyone. And it doesn't have to be, I'm going to here, you have to make this precise block, and if you're not making a show quilt, why are you bothering? Because the percentage of quilts that are show quilts versus the percentage of quilts that are made is infinitesimally
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's not the quilt I make. And that's not the way I quilt. You know, I don't worry about my seams too much. If they hold, they hold. You know, that's good enough.
Yeah.
And I think that wasn't out there. I think there's a deeper conversation to be had about why we do this, how we do this, and how there can be room for everyone. Really, it's about the maker,
Yeah.
and it's about the hand of the maker in the work. That to me is what's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think that's my a little bit different point of view, or at least something that I hadn't found. I was searching for and I hadn't found. So I thought, well, turn on that camera and, you know,
Go
that
for
put up or shut up.
it.
I know that's an awful expression,
But
but you know, it's like, you know, if that's what you want and it's not out there,
yeah.
throw it out there.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's I think your philosophy of why what you do with your channel is very good, because you're right. There are, if you need to find out how to bind a quilt, well, you just put in binding a quilt in YouTube and you're going to find hundreds of
yeah.
videos about it. And, you know, I've had people, my subscribers have said, well, why don't you do a tutorial? And I said, why? It's been done and probably done better than I do it, already out there. I don't like to do the same old thing that's there. It gets old very fast and very boring, not just for the subscriber, it gets boring for me, the creator.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I like to take a different spin on things, or you know, whatever. And if people come to me, I think they come to me because it is something a little different. If you want a
Yes.
standard tutorial, go to Jenny Doan, you know, she's got them all there, or
Yeah.
you know, the other ones, the big names. But if you
Mm-hmm.
want something that's, I like to think, entertaining, then you come to me, or whatever. Or if you want to see why I call myself an idiot, you come to me with it. But yeah, so I get that. So do you have any future plans for the development of your channel? Any challenges or things like that that you want to eventually get to or start on?
I do actually. I basically work hard every day, but beyond that, I'm thinking about doing Vlogmas, which
Mm-hmm.
scares me, which is why I think I should do it because I'm like, oh wow. I don't know if people want to like see me every day in December, but you know, they don't have to watch. Um, um, but I think that that would be a huge challenge. And I think about throwing in some, you know, some Q and A's and some different things that are interactive with the community. I'm having a blast talking to people in the comments because, you know, I'm not shy and I'll tell you exactly what I think about something. People are like, I disagree with you. I'm like, great, that's fantastic. Tell me why.
Mm.
You know, which is not a point of view you get from most people.
Nope.
They're like, you disagree with me? Well, you're wrong. Well, maybe you are wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we can disagree and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
The importance
so
is the conversation, actually. A
yes,
lot comes out of the dialogue, right?
yes. And I'm having a blast in the comments. And so yeah, I think I've decided that I'm going to do Vlogmas and, you know, torture my family by being unavailable for 31 days. But we're not, you know, my kids are grown. They're at home, but they're grown. And so it's not like Christmas is a
Right.
big to do. And so I'm kind of excited. And you know, I was out of my mind. I'm not a subscription box
Mhm.
girl, though I do love watching Holly and her Battle of the Boxes,
Oh,
Dandelion
yes, yes.
Stitches. Fascinated by that. And she is precious.
Yes.
And um, I'm not a subscription box girl. I don't like somebody sending me, or I don't like paying for a box that I don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
But I got sucked in and I ordered the Missouri Star Advent box.
Uh-huh, me
And
too.
I'm like, I'm going to end up with like, you know, 25 things and 15 of them. I'm going to be like, why do I have this? But I don't know, something about the excitement of opening a little thing every day sucked me in.
I
You
did
know,
that
spent
last year.
and
Yep.
I plunked down my hefty chunk of money and was like, yes, let's do this. And now I'm like, what was I thinking? But I don't know. It'll be fun. And
Yeah.
it'll be fun to see what I was thinking. So, or
Yeah.
fun for me anyway. So
I've never
hopefully
done Vlogmas either, because I think it's too much pressure to
it's a
do
lot of pressure.
something every day, and I'd
Mhm.
rather be quilting or doing something else than
Yeah.
that. But I did buy last year the Missouri Star Christmas box, and you think it was a chunk of money for you. I'm in Canada.
Oh, Canadian. And
It
then
was
the,
double in
yeah, I was
money.
gonna say, because you have to pay like the customs and the
Oh yeah, and the
shipping.
shipping.
Oh,
So that little box that I think what she sell it for 160 or
it's nearly, yeah, nearly $200 this year, I think.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
mine's more like 400. But I did
Yeah.
order it again because I really actually did enjoy it. And I sort of did a Vlogmas, but not really with Stephanie from Stephanie Stitches. We both
Hmm.
opened so many of them at a time. We didn't do it every day. We saved them up, but then we would react. Like, what do you think?
Oh, that
And
sounds
that
exciting. I'll
we
have to go
decided
back
we'll
and
do that this year too. So
oh,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. I'll go back and check out last year's because that sounds exciting.
yeah,
I
that was
could get
fun.
I could get in real trouble doing that.
Yeah. But anyways, but yeah, I'm like you too. I did try the subscription box for actually for only one company, and that was one that was here in Canada. And we don't really have a lot of quilt stores that do this subscription box thing. So I tried it out and it was okay, but it was a lot of fat quarters, and they curated it to your style, your taste, kind of you filled out a form about it. But then I was just getting so many of them, what was I going to do with them all? It was piling up. So I canceled it. I stopped. It wasn't because I didn't like what they had done. It was just I didn't need that much stuff. So I've never really done it again with that. But anyways, is there anything else you want to tell us about your channel? Anything else that might be, have you thought about doing any kind of like sew-alongs or collaborations with other YouTube creators or whatever?
I have. I'm just getting started. So, breaking into the community and saying, "Hey, here I am, and here's why you should care," is a process.
Right.
It's a process I'm working. I One of the things that I do is I study like the YouTube, like basically how to make better videos. So I'm really, really working on improving, at least one thing every video, hopefully.
Yeah.
It is for me. It's working for me. I hope it's conveying. Um, so I'm doing a lot of that, and I haven't thought about or haven't had the opportunity yet to do collaborations. Like I know of their Christmas collaborations in the works amongst the channels and Halloween and things like that. And I haven't done any of that, but I also just got here. So
Yeah.
um
You don't want to
but
overwhelm
yeah,
yourself, you know?
I'm interested. I'm interested in doing that. And I've started thinking about, what is 2024 going to look like? What are my uh, goals or aspirations for quilting and YouTube in the next year
Yeah.
going forward, and just beginning to hammer out the edges of that, and I hope that some of that will be included for 2024.
It's a development or evolution, I think. It's better.
Mhm.
And you have to take it at your own pace as well. You don't want to burn yourself out. This should be fun in my way of
Yeah.
thinking. That's why I do my channel. It's fun. And I don't do editing and I don't care about putting in special effects and things. Maybe I should, but I don't because I don't have the time to put into that because that doesn't bring me the joy out of it all the time too. I don't know why I keep saying bringing you joy. It's that stupid book by that Marie Kondo or whatever her name was. It just
Yeah.
sticks in my head. Bring you joy, and whatever. Uh, with that,
But
but
if it doesn't make you happy, if it's not fun, don't
don't.
do it.
Yeah, don't
You
do it.
know, I'm enjoying right now exploring some of the editing aspects. Also, it saves me from, sitting there going, oh, that's not what I meant to say. You can cut all that out. It's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I am enjoying that aspect of it. But if I weren't, I wouldn't do it.
No. exactly.
And if it's not fun, don't do it. And don't ever feel like you need to do it, because you need to do what makes you happy and what works for you. And that's
Yeah.
what's so great about all of it.
That's right. So, do you have any advice as in so our parting coming to the end of this interview right now? Do you have any advice for anyone who might want to get started into this? And I'm going to say art form because you said
Mhm.
earlier you considered this art, and I do
It
too.
is.
Yes, it is art, and I believe in that very strongly. So, do you have any advice for anybody that's thinking about getting into this or just starting out?
Make the quilt you want to make. If you want to make, even if you're just beginning and you see you are absolutely in awe of one of the Judy Niemeyer paper piece patterns with all the angles and the curves, and that's what has sparked joy. Sorry. But that has what has ignited the flame in your soul about quilting. Make that quilt. It's going to be hard, but you're going to learn.
Yeah.
Take your time. If people, I'm also a hand spinner and knitter, and I had an instructor once. People ask you, "Oh, how long does that take?" And I had an instructor once say, "I always answer people, if you're concerned about time, perhaps this isn't the hobby for you."
That's a good piece of advice. Yeah.
It can be a I work fast, but that's because that's how my brain functions. I want to work quickly. I do all the design work and all the execution separately, and that allows me to work very quickly.
Mm.
But if you're just learning and you see this beautiful pattern and you're like, that is what I want to make, don't start with a 4 patch. Don't start with, here's your 1/4 inch seam and here, make this traditional block, because you'll hate it. You'll hate every second of the process, and you'll never be a quilter.
Yeah.
You'll never love it. If you see a complex pattern and that's what you want to make, start there. I know that's not advice most people give. They're like, "Oh, learn the basics."
Yeah.
You can learn the basics. You will learn the basics as you go. But start where that fire is. Start with the thing that you are passionate about, because that's what will keep you going.
Yeah, I think that's very, very good advice, very sound advice for it too. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me today. I found it very insightful. I think you're extremely a creative person and an inspiring person as well. And I'm still loving that whole background of yours. I'm just focused so much on how that all goes together. Makes me think I should be doing something like that.
Yeah, the rest of the room
But
we won't talk
no.
about what's out of frame.
Yeah. What's out of frame is out of mind. Okay.
That's right. That's
So
right.
so thank you so much, Amy, for this. And I'm just going to finish up here, but don't go away from me when I turn
Oh,
it off. But
thank you, Stephen, for having me and for being such a community promoter. It's amazing. It's amazing, the outreach and the work that you're doing. And I really appreciate it.
well,
Not just
so much
for
for that.
you promoting me, but for all of the things that I've learned watching you promote others. And it's really a special thing that you're doing.
Well, thank you. Now you're making me blush. I me to tell because I'm usually red anyways. But thanks again, Amy. And yeah, this is going to be posted very soon, and everybody else will get to enjoy what I have enjoyed today. So thank you and have a great day.